Hi, this is Christopher Sean, Kaz from Star Wars Resistance. And I want to invite you to join me on Saturday, September 17th for Podathon 2022. I'll be hanging with my friends from Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. And I want to see you there. Podathon is a day-long charity podcasting event that raises money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The day is going to be filled with amazing shows, awesome guests, and lots of fun. Mark your calendars now and visit www.thepodathon.com for more information about the event and how you can donate directly to Make-A-Wish. Can't wait to see you there, and hey, may the Force be with you.
Well, gentlemen, today is going to be a different episode in several ways.
All right, well, I'll bite in what ways?
Well, thank you, Nate. First, Sam is leading the Star Wars segment this week.
I am. Well, it makes sense because Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. But why else is it going to be different?
BB Nate is going to dive deep into how faith is portrayed in the story of Daredevil. That's usually the kind of thing I would do.
It is. Well, it's kind of why he's become my favorite Marvel character.
That's very cool.
Great.
And then I am going to lead a conversation about why I think, and we think, right?
It's a we.
We. Okay.
We.
Why we think that I Am Groot is actually a better show than She-Hulk. Ooh. I promise. We're going to keep this conversation very light side. And this is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to it.
It released, a few days ago? How long? 2 days? 2 days. It was only 2 days ago?
3 days, yeah.
Damn.
Well, by the time, I guess, yeah. 4 or 5 days.
We've already listened to it
I've listened to it many times. What soundtrack are you talking
about?
The
Rings of Power. It was Bear. What's his last name? McCreary.
All right. Yeah. So initial reaction, I'll have you go, BB Nate.
Fantastic. We don't have any emotional connection to any of the soundtrack or the characters or anything, and I think this is genuinely one of the best soundtracks I've listened to.
That is a lot coming from you. What about
out of recent years? Yeah, it's definitely one of the best soundtracks to come out. It is phenomenal. So really recognizable, iconic themes that once you put some emotional connection behind it, it'll be just about as iconic as some of the
and we're getting a new trailer
themes.
Today.
Seriously? Probably is already out.
That's awesome. So welcome.
Wait, today is in recording or today as in release?
Release. All right. Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer and director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson.
And Knives Out.
And Glass Onion coming out December 23rd on Netflix.
Good.
Absolutely. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there is a story. It is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. And that is why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and all of the epic franchises that you love so much. I am David. I am the dad.
Hello, Dad.
Hello, gentlemen. I am honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons, Samuel the Hutt. Star Wars this week.
Yeah, one of the best stories in Star Wars doesn't even have a Jedi.
This is true.
That's true.
And will you explain why we're talking about that this week? Will you do that on your segment? All right, awesome. And BB Nate?
Yeah, I'm convinced that Daredevil is one of the greatest television shows ever made.
Wow.
I know that's high.
I'm telling you, season 3 is grabbing me, and I'm not finished with it yet. We tried to get it finished before recording. But
yeah, it's just
life, right?
It's crazy. What are you talking about, Dad? What's going on?
Well, I'm gonna share an opposing viewpoint. I'm gonna take the I'm gonna be the opposing counsel
I get it. The lawyer. Yeah, I like
on She-Hulk, especially the end credit scene regarding Captain America. And we'll talk about that. So,
alrighty.
But before we do that, thank you so much for listening to the show. If this is the first time you're listening, thank you so much for being here. We hope you'll stick around all the way through to the end and give us a chance to explain some of the crazy stuff that we're talking about this week. Follow the show on whatever podcast app that you listen to podcasts on. Make sure you hit that subscribe. That's a YouTube moment right there.
Yeah, that's a YouTube.
Smash down the subscribe button, bro.
Smash like.
All right. And follow the show.
That does not work for us.
It doesn't. We tried YouTube. It doesn't work for us. Okay. Super excited about what's coming September 17th.
Yes.
Podathon 2022 just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern. Last week, we told you about some of the amazing announcements of guests like obviously Ryan Johnson, who's going to be on Octu Radio. Our guest is going to be Christopher Sean,
first guest.
Star Wars Resistant, the first guest of the entire Podathon. Will be on around 9:20 a.m. Eastern on our show. Kristen Baver from This Week in Star Wars is going to be there. Gary Whitta, who helped write the screenplay for Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and some other stuff.
It's crazy.
It's like poetry.
Coincidence.
It rhymes.
Wow.
This week's guest announcements are just
crazy.
Incredible.
I can't even begin to describe how amazing this thing is getting. Friday night, Bombad cast, Scotty and Jerry, they announced Seth Green.
Wow.
It's crazy.
If the name is familiar and you're not placing him, he was one of the stars of Robot Chicken. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's in the Austin Powers movies. He was in The Italian Job with,
that actually looks
with
good.
Mark. You've never seen it?
I've never seen it, no.
That is on the
Italian
list.
Job?
I love that movie.
I've never even heard of it.
I have. I watched the trailer. I'm like, this looks good. And I totally forgot about it.
It is good. With it, he voiced Todo.
I think it's Toto.
I thought it was Toto too. 360
Toto 2?
and
It's Toto 360.
It's Toto 360.
I know you said Toto 2.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Yearable.
It's anyway, he voiced a couple characters in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and I hear that the conversation that they had was just amazing. And
it was.
He's a lot of fun, and the outtakes on the trailer, where the promotional plug are fantastic on that as well. But that's not it. Charles Soule.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. Charles Soule, author of Light of the Jedi, a bunch of High Republic books, the Darth Vader,
Sith.
Fantastic comics run.
One of the best Star Wars comic series of all times, and a bunch of other stuff with that. Kelly Knox, she's been a guest on our show before, but she's the author of Be More Obi-Wan and Star Wars Every Day, and she's a writer for StarWars.com.
Awesome.
Zoraida Cordova, author of Star Wars: A Crash of Fate, another High Republic author. Clone Wars: Stories of Light and Dark was there. Mike Chen, author of Star Wars Brotherhood and one of the anthology stories in From a Certain Point of View, Empire Strikes Back. And then our friend, and I really truly feel weird that I can say that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Our friend Matt Martin, senior creative executive of Lucasfilm Story Group.
Wow.
The man who was instrumental in Turbis being canonized.
That's an understatement.
And our fandom.
And a guest on our 100th episode back from a few years ago, and someone who has just been absolutely amazing to us. And my understanding is there's more announcements coming.
Goodness.
So you need to be there September 17th, 9 a.m. Eastern. Check out, just search Podathon 2022. You're going to find it all over on everything, and we'll go from there. But enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're talking about.
Wow, you said that with confidence this week.
You're ready.
You guys ready. You guys
he practiced that in the mirror a couple times.
You
before
encouraged me to say it with confidence this week, so I did. BB Nate, go for it.
All right. Well, we finally caught up with the rest of the world. Well, most of us. And watched the Daredevil series, and it is stunning.
Yep.
To the point where I started reading some of the comics, and one of my favorite parts of his character is his faith and religion. So let's get into how that makes him a great Marvel character.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
That man has no limits.
I was absolutely my jaw dropped.
So yeah, we watched the episode before that, and I had to go to youth choir, and he was like, "You were asking if you could continue watching," and I'm just like,
he's already BB Nate had already seen the show. He's watching it again with me because he loves it so much. We're about halfway through, almost to the end now.
We're almost to the end,
but at the time we were about halfway through.
Yes, and so he was the episode before. Spoiler alert: if you haven't watched,
Daredevil, turn this off, go watch it, come back.
Yes, exactly. Which
you'll see in a few months.
We find out that Maggie is the mother of Matthew Murdock.
My jaw hit the floor, and it was frustrating because there was a moment earlier in that season where she's stitching up
Matt's face.
I want to say Charlie Cox, but it's obviously Matt, right? Stitching up Matt's face and talking about how she left the convent or the church and went and thought she could have a different life for a while and then came back. And I'm like, wait, could she be Matt's mom? And then I immediately dismissed it and was like, that's not even, no way they are going to do that. And then at the time I was like, I don't want them to do that because that's like a too much of a Darth Vader moment.
Right.
By the time we got to the actual reveal, I was like, I'm heartbroken for Matt.
And then when Matt leaves and Maggie's at the bed and she's just sobbing,
I was dying inside.
Such a good show.
Well, and then she reveals it in a prayer that's private before God, and
yes,
he's Daredevil, and I'm like, I broke my heart. Anyway,
that's great. So, we're just going to talk about Daredevil and his faith through kind of 3 periods of his whole, I don't know, journey, I guess. His comic journey.
Okay, it's comic journey.
His whole fandom journey. Let's start with when he was first confirmed to be a Catholic. Matt Murdock being Catholic was hinted at for a while, but it was never confirmed to the insanely popular Born Again arc, which came out and is considered one of the greatest arcs for Daredevil of all time. And you might recognize the story from Daredevil season 3, since that took heavy inspiration from it. Don't worry, Dad. I didn't include the ending in this, so you won't get spoiled on it.
That's good, but can we stop? I thought that the new series is called Born Again.
It is, so we're not 100% sure how that's going to work out.
Okay.
Not really, but Born Again is about Matt being beaten by Fisk, losing the law firm, and being abandoned by everyone he knows. Eventually, Matt loses faith and becomes homeless and lives on the street, barely able to beat a few guys who were mugging someone.
This is the comic. We're not getting spoilers. Okay.
No. Right. He's rageful and dark in this arc, and eventually he finds a church where a nun named Maggie, Sister Maggie. Don't know if it's confirmed in this arc in that she's his mother, though. I don't remember that, but helps him and gives him a room to stay in. She prays that he will regain his faith and spread the light of God on the streets of New York. And a few days later, Matt regains his faith and prevails in his own inner battle using faith and not rage or violence. And this story is one of the classics by Frank Miller, actually, after he did Dark Knight Returns. And it shows how powerful Matt's faith is. Without it, he would have fear. He would never become the man without fear, and we wouldn't have what is considered the greatest superhero show ever. So what does Matt's faith mean to y'all? Is it encouraging to see these stories in comics and TV shows?
Let me go first because I haven't seen the resolution.
You haven't? No. I
and
specifically
the
cut
one
that out.
word that I keep saying every episode with Matt, and it literally, I mean, it's like physically hurting my heart watching Matt go through this he's just so dark. It's hard to see the laughable, Matt from seasons 1 and 2, is not there.
Yeah.
He's not there in this. And he's, when he says he's going to kill Wilson Fisk, I have no doubt he means he's killing Wilson Fisk. And he is, and the contrast between that and season 2 with Punisher, he's trying to constantly tell Punisher to believe in these people, to trust that they can be good. There's good in everyone, all of these things. And this version of him is hard. It is hard to watch. So my hope is, that he resolves, because right now it's really, really difficult, to go through.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. Well, not cool, but I think it's important to see this. It's a very not powerful enough word, but it's encouraging to see that concept or that aspect of him, because it shows why he does what he does and why he's able to keep pushing forward, because he truly believes that he's making a difference. He's doing the right thing, and he has something feeding into him to keep him going. And it's like, it's cool to see for us too. While we're not Catholic,
Right.
you know,
I mean,
it's
part
very
of the Christian
similar.
faith.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really neat to see that sort of, I guess, representation in a way. But I really like that aspect of Matt. It's something cool we don't see very often.
Yeah.
No. Cool. Speaking of the Daredevil show, they didn't shy away from his faith in the show, and it's actually what made the show, in my opinion, fantastic. Season 3 really dives into the aspect of that character. At the beginning of the season, we see a broken man who has lost everything and has lost all faith. And we get some amazing conversations in this season about faith, like the one on the steps when he is a kid with Father Lantom, and even a few scene. With Maggie towards the beginning and everything. And what I love about this season and the portrayal of faith in this show is that it's not all easy. It's not all peachy and sunny. It's difficult to have faith sometimes. And maybe you lose it, but never give up. You keep believing and eventually you'll see the signs. So what do y'all think about the Daredevil show overall?
Oh, man.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no, I'll be careful. Honestly, for whatever reason, even though we just finished it, season 3 is still kind of fuzzy for me. That's
why it's great watching it again.
Right. No, I do want to watch it again. I was busy doing a whole bunch of things when that was happening. So I don't remember specifics, but I do remember like aspects of that. And overall, I think the Daredevil show portrays a great story of a man who never gives up despite everything. I mean, first you have a blind man doing the things he's doing. Obviously, yes, he's got powers and stuff, but he could have just sat around and done nothing about it. Yeah, he decided to make a difference. So that's already a sign of him going forward, and him losing his dad and his mom not being there, and everything that's happened over the course of the story that we see, and him never giving up. Is such an encouraging story, I think. And I think you're right, Nate. I think faith is what keeps him going, what keeps, it gives him that drive that he has to never, when he gets hit down. One of the things is about, they talk about them Murdoch boys, they take a hit and they never stay down. They always get back up. And that's, I think the faith is a large part of why Matt keeps getting back up.
It is interesting to think about that verse in scripture that says we walk by faith and not by sight.
Exactly.
How that is a driving central theme to this entire
he's
character.
The personification of it. He
is literally walking by faith and not by sight. And it makes sense that they include his faith as such a central element within this story because of the idea there with it. I love this show. I'll be honest with you. The first season, I finished that all the way back in California.
You did.
Before you guys moved to California after we were like doing that transition there. I watched it. I got into a couple episodes of season 2. You guys moved there. It was too crazy at that time.
Sammy and I think watched 16 like part of season 1.
Not even 12. Yeah, you guys watched a couple episodes.
A little bit.
And then I was like, let's not do this. And so I never picked back up on it. Finishing season 2 a week or so ago was good.
Yeah, it's good.
But it's not the same as this season. No. We got into this season and I'm just captivated by it. And I do think it's a very different season. Does it have Daredevil violence in it? Sure. It does. But not to the extent of seasons 1 and 2.
No.
It is a intelligent story with great characters. Wilson Fisk is just the personification of evil. He is
manipulation.
When we watched Hawkeye and everybody was super excited about Kingpin coming back, I was kind of like, yeah, that's cool.
I'm happy he's back.
I'm like, Kingpin back in the story. Same thing with Daredevil after this season. I was like, excited about seeing Matt Murdock in No Way Home.
Try Cox.
I'm telling you right now,
I'm really excited.
Give me
when we see No Way Home again, I'm gonna cheer louder this time.
I am so excited about these characters. I want to see the resolution with it. When you say this one is one of the best television shows of all time, there's no lie in that. I mean, it's that good.
There isn't anything that I've watched during this show that I'm just like, oh, that was pretty meh, or that was pretty bad. I didn't enjoy that. I mean, Defenders, I guess is connected to it.
Yeah, I
but
guess
it's
we
still
should
not the
clarify that we watched a recap video
because
for me
Defenders is not
of
that.
Defenders.
Nathan and I watched Defenders.
That's true.
Yeah, we didn't enjoy it.
It was
but
okay.
Daredevil in and of itself, the whole show is fantastic, and I cannot wait to see Charlie Cox as Daredevil.
You have to give it to, like you said, Charlie Cox. He does an amazing job portraying the character, and you see the struggle. He's able to portray it so well. Yeah, he does phenomenal.
And
That's a large part of
kudos
it.
to the unsung heroes of the casting directors. They nailed it in this series.
Yep.
Foggy's fantastic. Karen is fantastic.
Yes.
The
Matt.
priest is fantastic.
Yes,
Maggie is
Yes,
fantastic.
everything. Kudos to them. They're great.
I get all of you out there that I was thrilled for you when you found out that Daredevil was coming back and Kingpin was coming back and all of those things. I mean, I thought I got it. I was excited with you guys, but if you had already finished it, I apologize for not understanding how important this was because it is that good.
It is. But this is something we need to discuss. Are y'all worried about the Daredevil Born Again series?
I'm not sure because I don't know how this one resolves itself.
I mean, we don't even know if they're going to continue that story. They just happen to have cast two of the same actors to play the same characters. That's the only connection Three. That's right. We've got Foggy.
Let's go.
So that's the only real connection we have at the moment. But my inclination is to think that they are going to continue.
It has to be.
And I'm not worried. I think you can still tell interesting stories and compelling stories with Daredevil. I mean, think about everything that's changed in the MCU since season 3 happened. I mean, you have the blip and all of that. I mean, we don't know what Matt was doing during the whole blip situation. He could have been blipped. He could have been stuck. I'm not saying anything crazy.
I know. I was just making sure you did.
So we don't know anything like that yet.
Well, I mean, I got you guys to say tread carefully and don't spoil it and all that.
Exactly.
The reality is Matt Murdock is back.
Yes.
If this is the same universe, the same story, which it hasn't been completely confirmed yet, the Matt Murdock in No Way Home is the Matt Murdock that you get in season 1 and season 2 of this series. So I realize that there's got to be some kind of change and progression from where we're at in the series at this point.
The only thing I'm worried about is that in this new series, it won't have the feel that we have now. I'm not talking the MA rating and all that. You don't need that to tell a compelling story. I'm talking about the feel of the show, the faith elements, like you said, intelligent, compelling stories. Daredevil, the show, would not be what it is now without those things. So I'm worried that they're not going to be able to capture that again and put it in this new series.
They sort of tried to make it more standard MCU story versus what we get in the Daredevil series.
Right. I mean, honestly, if they keep it close to how Moon Knight was, I think we'll be pretty okay.
And one of the great things that we've gotten already is the 18 episode long first season.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's huge storytelling ability.
Yes. Do you think they go MA rating? Because they are with Marvel Zombies.
Yeah.
I think they could. I think that the popularity of this show itself in the Netflix world, and the reaction of fans to seeing Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye, seeing Matt Murdock in No Way Home, seeing and hearing the possibility that they would come back in their own series. All of that together tells me that they can go down that path, and I think people are going to be okay with it in the MCU. I hope that they do.
I think that they have to for this type of a character and with how it's set up.
I want it to feel like it's a continuation of this current series.
And, yeah. And I mean, it would make sense with how it's named. I feel like it's a reboot of the show. They're starting it up again, but
Born Again.
Yes. Yeah. And lastly, the Chip Zdarsky, I've never had to say that name. The Chip Zdarsky run, that I'm currently reading. I'm about halfway through the last run he did. He's doing the current one right now. But from what I've read, has handled his faith in a very good way. Again, at the beginning of this run, Matt loses his faith and becomes sloppy to the point where he accidentally kills a criminal.
Wow.
This drives him to further go into a depression where he starts running from the law and even beating officers up to get away.
Which he does in this season with the FBI, and they actually talk about it in detail. So.
In this arc, he's no longer Matt Murdock anymore.
Very similar, yeah.
And eventually, Spider-Man himself makes him retire, or he will, and I quote, take care of him himself.
Wow.
And Daredevil is dead. And Matt gives him up. Matt is still lost, but he doesn't want to be. He eventually looks for God's signs and tries to hear him. He goes to a church and has a conversation with a nun. No, it's not Maggie about it. And she tells him that he just has to be patient and listen. At that exact moment, he hears another nun sobbing in a corner because her son was just kidnapped.
Wow.
Matt takes this as a sign from God, and he goes and saves the boy. Eventually, this leads him to start taking down criminal rings, and he completely gives up the Daredevil mantle, thinking it was too dark and violent for the city, and he wanted to give hope. So now he's just Matt Murdock vigilante.
Interesting.
Eventually, he's not using an alter ego?
No, he just had a mask on. Eventually, he saved the entire city from a crime family, and he dons the suit and the symbol again, understanding that it is what gave hope and faith to the city,
Batman.
like the guys he needed. At the end, it's a beautiful shot in this comic. He's sitting in this street of absolutely just demolished, the explosions, fires, and everything everywhere, and he just puts on the mask, because in this arc there were imposters of Daredevil. That's why he gave up the symbol, because there were people pretending to be him because Daredevil was gone. And so there was an imposter who was fighting alongside him when the city was being destroyed. So he grabbed the suit that he made and put it on and said, this is the symbol that they need. And it's great. It's a great arc so far, and I'm only halfway through. But this is a bit of a different take on his faith, but still it is what drives him to be good. So overall, from what we've heard in this and Born Again and everything that you grew up with, Dad, what do y'all think of the overall character of Matt Murdock / Daredevil?
I love the fact that Matt's faith isn't simple.
No.
Yeah.
I love the fact that that he literally seems to go from one crisis of faith to another. It's real. You know, this is going to go way left field, so I'm sorry.
It's fine. I didn't.
There may be 3 people that listen to this show that will have any idea what I'm talking about in this moment. But one of the greatest, the ASCAP is the organization, the official organization that rates like songs and artists and things like that, like copyright stuff.
Okay.
And they listed the number 1 songwriter of the 21st century.
What's this century?
20th century. 20th century, the 1900s, the 20th century.
Okay.
They listed a songwriter. He's a Christian songwriter. He's written a song like Because He Lives and The King Is Coming and He Touched Me, named Bill
songs.
Gaither.
Yeah.
They listed him as the number 1 songwriter of the 20th century.
Dang.
Okay. He was asked on another podcast that has nothing to do with Star Wars or Marvel or DC.
Bro, it'd be a little weird for them to bring out.
He was asked what song God put him on earth to write. And he mentioned a song that most people have never ever heard called I Believe, Help Thou My Unbelief. And he quoted the phrase, I long so much to feel the warmth that others seem to know, but should I never feel a thing, I claim him even so. And he says, I wrote that song for people that believe even though they don't know why they believe. And that is a perfect illustration of Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
And that's what makes his character so compelling. And that's why I think people gravitate towards it, because I do think there's a story written on our souls that tells us that there's a God and that the supernatural divine realm is real. And so we gravitate towards stories that speak to that part within us. And I think that's why Daredevil is so popular. So.
Yeah, I don't think I can really add. Yeah, I can't really add much to that. I'm
asking your opinion on him.
No, I love him.
Okay, here's better. What does Matt Murdock, Daredevil, mean to you in the fandom in pop culture?
Yeah, I think he's such a important character and symbol. I mean, he is very much a sort of Batman-esque character for Marvel. Like, granted, he has powers, but not to the same extent.
Has heightened abilities.
Yes, his senses compensate for his lack of vision, basically. But, you know, the fact that he's pretty much an everyman and he's just trying to make a difference in his city, no matter what the cost, right? Because he just cares for his city and those people, despite his disabilities and abilities, and despite his, like you said, that crisis of faith. I mean, he struggles with his faith and whether he wants to maintain this mantle of Daredevil. I mean, it's constant, and it makes for a very compelling story because we're able to relate to it. You know, we don't have perfect seasons all throughout our life. We go through struggles too. So being able to see a character who is superhuman, you know, you would think would have it all put together, go through these tough times and these tough emotions and come out on the other side a better person because of it is hugely motivational. And I think Daredevil is such a great example of that.
And that is why I love Batman and Daredevil, because they all go through those type of things. And so that's great. But I mean, I gotta be honest, Daredevil has probably become my second favorite superhero, or
above
probably
Doctor Strange?
Probably 1A, 1B with Batman over the past few months. I love to see the superheroes that can get beat and but they always get up again. And seeing Daredevil using faith to get up again is always an amazing thing to see. And I cannot wait to see more Daredevil in the MCU.
Absolutely.
Dang.
Great segment. Guys, just for all you listening out there, just want to remind you that the kid that led that just turned 17 like a week ago.
Right.
Very proud, because that shows such maturity and wisdom. I'm very proud of who you are. All right. We should move forward.
And on that note.
Yeah, exactly. Here again, we've got this. Is it canon thing? It could be Legends, it could be canon, but the random article button on Wikipedia is what's going to determine that. That's all up next.
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right. Again, for all of you just tuning in, maybe for the first time, here's how this segment works. I give a description of something that I find on the amazing repository of everything Star Wars, Wikipedia, and then these two knuckleheads make an argument for whether they think it's canon or Legends. All right. You guys ready?
Ready.
Yes,
Don't
let's
look.
go. I'm not
looking.
All right. It's Numenor.
Are we sure we're not talking about Lord of the Rings here?
No, Numenor.
Okay.
Not Numenor. Numenor. He was a rebel pilot who flew an X-Wing starfighter for the Rebel Alliance's...
This is way too vague.
Rebel Alliance's... Well, if you'd be quiet, I'll
go
get
ahead.
All right. For the 61st Mobile Infantry during the Galactic Civil War. His assigned ship was the Brahatok class gunship Ipalana's Promise, which flew with the 61st Troop Transport, the CR-90 Corvette Thunderstrike, and carried the company's two X-Wings on its underbelly. Both Nemanov and the other X-Wing pilot swore they would never board the troop carrier.
That's vague.
Legends are canon.
This is vague enough to be in a canon book, but it also could very well be a Legends book, because I feel like either this is Rogue Squadron, but then that's Galactic. That's not the Galactic Civil War.
Yeah, it is.
That is, yeah. Then it could very well be Rogue Squadron, but it could also be like Aftermath or something.
Well, yeah, that's all still canon.
Well, Rogue Squadron isn't. Rogue Squadron is Legends.
No, the Rogue Squadron movie will be canon.
Will be if that ever gets made.
But the Alphabet Squadron.
I was talking about Rogue Squadron, because that sounds like Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron was a series of novels during the Legends era.
And video game, right?
And video game. Yeah, the novels were based on video games.
Yeah.
That's true. But then there's the Alphabet Squadron, which is canon, right? That takes place right after 6, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So would that technically be the Galactic Civil War?
No, Galactic Civil War ends at Jakku.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so that takes place, okay.
This is tough.
Because I feel like it's possible enough.
My initial inkling is to say Legends, but I think I always
Well, that makes sense though, because Legends, there's so much more Legends content.
And I'm unfamiliar with most of it. Well, I'm familiar with enough with a lot of Legends stuff.
A lot of canon you're familiar.
Yeah, sorry, canon. This has been a long day. I'm going to guess Legends because it sounds like it would be. It's fleshed out enough to be a main character in a Legend story. Because I mean, I feel like I would have heard of him in canon, but then again, haven't read a lot of books.
Fair enough. BB-8.
I guess I don't know.
Come on, you got to make a decision. I know this is hard.
It's great.
All right. Let's go.
Play the Jeopardy theme. Yeah. I'm going to say canon just because I don't know enough of the books, and this could very well be also could be in the Thrawn books. Yeah, I don't know that. I didn't read them. It could be there's a lot. It could be in the comics too, the Age of Republic comics. Okay. It seems like a comic thing.
All right, so Samuel the Hutt is going Legends and BB Nate is going canon. Am I correct?
Yep.
It is from Battlefront Twilight Company novel, which was
that canon.
I didn't change that one little note there. Twilight Company is a canon novel written by Alexander Freed, who did write the Alphabet Squadron books. With that
little bait and switch,
which is based on the video game Star Wars Battlefront. So it's interesting how you guys were tying into Rogue Squadron, which is connected to a video game, and the books were based off of a video game. It's the same scenario. It was released by Del Rey on November 3rd, 2015. That was good. That was fun.
That was tough.
I'm glad we got that one.
That was
that
one was tough.
Samuel the Hutt. Yes. Talk about that Star Wars thing you love so much.
Yeah, keeping them with the theme and kind of getting on Rogue Squadron. Rogue One is re-releasing in IMAX this weekend with a special look at Andor. And since we won't be going because someone in the family decided to have a 70th birthday this weekend.
Nerve.
I know. We wanted to talk about some of the reasons why we love this movie.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
You're coming to is as the footsteps of steps.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
Do you think, so you guys think we... you think we see Andor meet K2SO?
I don't think I think it'll happen at the end of season 1.
Okay.
The prediction's sure to go wrong before we even get to that part of the that's not even today.
No, that's not even today, no.
No, I say end of season 1.
All right.
I'm saying, maybe end of season 1 throughout season 2. I don't know. That feels like too early, though.
He's coming. All right.
He's coming at some
sure,
point.
sure.
Yeah.
All right. I want to start off the segment by asking you guys if your thoughts and opinions on Rogue One have changed in the 6 years since it came out.
BB Nate's got his hand up. He's ready to go.
Ready.
I think it's okay.
Are you being serious?
No.
I was like, wow. I was like, that has changed a lot.
No, it has changed from the first time I saw it. When the first time I saw it, I was 11, 10. So it was a long time ago. And I didn't have the amount of maturity and understanding of movies, of Star Wars or anything like that at that time. So now watching it in theaters again a few months ago, sorry, you weren't able to go to that, Sam, was amazing. And, I honestly really love it more now and understand it more now. And it's gotten me more excited for Andor because I think that his character being expanded on will make me appreciate his character more in Rogue One.
All right. I loved it the first few times we saw it in theaters because it was new Star Wars in the movie theater.
Exactly.
Yep.
I loved it because we got Chopper and Harrison Syndulla, General Syndulla and Ghost. And I loved it because we got Stephen Stanton as
happy birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. We got amazing surprises like the CGI Grand Moff Tarkin and the CGI Princess Leia and
everything about
and the whole Darth Vader scene,
the Darth Vader stuff, Mustafar, all of that. So there was so much in that like it was like just as a Star Wars nerd, it just went from one fan service thing to another. And that's why I loved it the first time. I love it today because it's an amazing story.
Yes.
Great characters. I can't wait to see more character development with some of these stories and things like that. But it is while I don't think I could love it any more than I loved it before, my love for it is different and it's matured as I've understood the movie more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's changed for me too in the same regard. But I want to talk about specifically a couple reasons why we love Rogue One. And I think, first and foremost, it's the characters. One thing that helps set this movie apart is the main cast of characters are completely original, and we've never seen them anywhere else in Star Wars, at least before this movie came out.
And after.
And yes, and after.
Yep.
But first, I want to know who your favorite character from Rogue One is and why. Nate?
I have a soft spot for droids, so K2. He's always been my favorite.
He's always
been my favorite, and so yeah, I love K2SO. I don't think that'll ever change, but no, a close second would have to be Chirrut, because I have a soft spot for both Chirrut and Baze, because right after the movie came out, I got the Guardians of the Whills book. Great book.
A young
adult.
Not even young adult. I think it's like a juvenile.
No, it was, I don't remember what it was, but it's still a great book for what it was. And you said that if I finished that, you would get me Ahsoka. And
I did, didn't I? Did I follow through on that promise?
You did. So, well, it had to be. You were out.
I did follow up.
You were on like a week-long trip.
Okay.
And I had to finish it before you got back. I remember finishing it on the ride to the airport to pick you up.
Okay.
And so I really love that book, and it got me into reading Ahsoka, and it got me into a bigger Star Wars fandom. So Rogue One is important to me in so much, and I love Chirrut's character.
That's cool.
He's so cool.
It is interesting that you gravitate towards Chirrut, the character who is blind and who is driven by faith.
Yeah.
In this, which was why I was going to pick this character, not because of the blind stuff, but by the faith piece with him. Chirrut, I am one with the Force is with me. He's always believing. And the other part of that, the yin to his yang is Baze, who's lost faith. And and Chirrut is constantly trying to encourage his friend who used to be this amazing prophet of the Whills, this guardian. He has lost all belief, and he's trying to encourage him to take that back, and so it's huge.
And eventually he does, just by seeing the faith of Chirrut.
Absolutely. So, and what about you?
I was gonna say Chirrut too, but
no, that's fine. If it's your favorite character, it's your favorite character.
Yeah, but I mean, Andor
is a good podcast quality.
No, I also really like Andor in that he's not necessarily a character I'd look up to, but just
not now.
He's just so dedicated to the cause, and he's willing to kind of do anything for it. Not quite to the extent that Saw Gerrera's gotten to. He's a little too extreme.
But I think we're going to see some of that in this series.
And I think that makes him an interesting and compelling character. Now, not necessarily a role model, but in your opinion, what makes the characters of Rogue One so special and caused them to have such an impact despite only being in one movie?
I think it's because they're everyday people. I mean, they're people fighting the cause. They're people who are just living on a planet with no purpose anymore, like Baze and Chirrut. They're people in prison that get broken out. I mean, they're just people. They're not some prophecy, or some great powerful master and some mystic art and all that stuff. They're just people.
They're hobbits.
Yes, they're people we can look up to. They are every men. And so we can really look to them and be like, I see myself in Jin. I see myself in Andor. I see myself in Chirrut. You can say that with any of these characters. You can't say I see myself in K2. But that's a little difficult. But it is a great story in how people live in this world, and it's something we didn't experience before this movie all that much.
I agree, and I think that this is a testament to the amazing storytelling and script writing, screenwriting of
Gary Whitta and Tony
of Gareth Edwards, Tony Gilroy, and Gary Whitta, and obviously Tony Gilroy is the one writing this story for Andor and directing it. I believe, I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong on this. Someone will correct me, I'm sure, on Twitter. But Gary Whitta is involved in writing this as well with that. So there's another plug for tuning into Podathon on September 17th. With that, they just understood how to write fantastic characters, put them in a story. And it's so complicated to do this because they have to sandwich this in to a very short period of time with so much pre-story and backstory having already been written. Or later story. I mean, it's got to fit perfectly, which is amazing. And I can't remember who came up with the idea for this. I think it's John Knoll, which we talked about it last week on Light and Magic. He came up with the idea and sent it to Kathleen Kennedy, and Kathleen Kennedy says, "All right, let's go with it." So I think that that's one of the reasons that it's so encouraging.
Yeah. I think you about hit it. The second part, or the second reason why I think this movie is why we, man, I'm just having a tough time with
it's all right. You're
today.
Good. You're good.
I think the second reason why we like this movie so much is we saw a very different perspective in it. The characters we followed,
just like we were talking about.
Yeah, we're just an everyman. No Jedi, no great rebellion leaders, just soldiers fighting a war. And Nate, you talked about how you really enjoyed this movie because of this, but what exactly about this perspective makes you feel that way?
Yeah, it's like I was saying, because everybody can see themselves in either one of these characters or multiple, like different aspects of themselves in different characters. It's the drive of Andor with the faith of Chirrut, or anything like that. And so it's a really great story in seeing these people that you can relate to going through this battle and continuing to fight. And even though none of them make it out, they dedicated themselves to this cause. And it's seeing what the rebellion is truly for. And that's why this perspective and this version of characters and this version of Star Wars that we hadn't gotten before is important and loved so much by the Star Wars community.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's important because it shows you that it shows everyone that you can make a difference no matter how big the fight may be. I mean, you may feel like you're insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Well, these people probably thought they were insignificant too, and yet they were instrumental in the story of Star Wars. Now, obviously, it's a grander story, but I mean, you can have an effect on anything. Just because you feel like you're not significant doesn't mean you are. So
yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, at the risk of taking another weird left turn,
man, this episode's just full of them.
It's like that song in Frozen 2.
Wow, that's not the turn I was expecting.
But you know that the idea is, you know, that when Elsa do the next right thing. That's like this, what they learned to do. And this is going to be the only podcast in history that you've ever heard us talk about Daredevil, Star Wars. We're going to talk some She-Hulk. We're going to talk some I Am Groot. And we're going to talk about Bill Gaither and Frozen 2. This is why
only here, folks.
Subscribe.
Only here.
Because this is the only podcast like this out there. Anyway.
Wow. Yeah. No, but you're right.
Do the next right thing.
All right. Thank you. Anyway, moving on. No, we've only really gotten two stories in Star Wars like this that follow those kind of everyday people.
This is what it's like living in this house, though.
Yeah. It's a lot. And not in a bad way. But anyway, the two movies that we've gotten that tell us is Rogue One and Solo. You could maybe cite Mandalorian, but at least in movies, it was only Rogue One and Solo.
Okay.
Plus Mando kind of got into like Luke and the Force and all that towards the end, so it's not the same. But Dad, do you want to see more stories like this told in future Star Wars movies?
As far as stories that aren't just directly tied to like
the Jedi
and stuff,
and all that, the sort of everyman story.
I do want to see that. I do want to see more Jedi stuff too, though. I want to see the Acolyte, and I want to see Ahsoka, and I want to see some crazy mystical stuff going on in Star Wars. But I also like the stories like this. That's one of the things that's kind of happened in Mandalorian. Is Mandalorian has sort of morphed into a Jedi story. You know, first season 1 was Mando. And baby Grogu, or baby Yoda that turned into Grogu, I guess. But it was about Mando. And then season 2, it's like the Force and Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker and going to Tython. And it's much more Force driven story.
I think season 3 will be a little bit more.
Season 3 is going to be all about Mandalore.
Yeah.
With that. And that's fine, because that's the story that they're telling. And that's important.
I'm excited
it's
for it.
Called The Mandalorian. Wow. But I like stories like this that allow us to see, what it would be like to, I think that's one of the things that's going to be so compelling about Andor is we're going to see what it's like living in the Empire when you have no hope and you've got just a handful of people that are trying to figure that out. It's going to be an amazing story.
So I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you know, knowing that we're going to get that perspective in Andor, what do you want to see them explore in this perspective specifically now that they have more runtime. They have an entire show to be able to dedicate to that.
I mean, they can explore the heaviness of living in the Empire. I mean, we've gotten some aspects of it with Rebels. We saw a little bit of it. But throw me an episode set during Empire Day in Andor.
Oh, that would be cool.
That'd be great. I'd love that. That would be such an interesting aspect for Andor and his character, and even the other characters in the show.
Yeah.
And that would be great. And like an espionage attack on Empire Day could work so well.
Maybe they show us, because I think the timeline, they could make it happen the first Empire Day.
Yeah.
Like the first time that they did that celebration, they made that a holiday and they celebrated. I want to see what the general population's mindset to that would have been.
I want to see Mon Mothma's reaction, and I want to see Andor's reaction. I want to see the political side and the civilian side of that. And I think that we can get that now because TV shows do allow for more storytelling abilities. Kenobi couldn't have been a movie because there just was too much for them to put into it. But it fit for a TV show. Mando couldn't be a movie.
No.
Book of Boba Fett probably could have. But I'm sorry. But no, there's a lot of important stuff in all of these series that is lended to because of the runtime. So I'm excited.
I want to feel the heaviness,
desperation,
and the desperation of this. I want to understand why Saw Gerrera is a terrorist, a literal terrorist, especially in Rebel Rising. I want to understand that. I want to understand why Mon Mothma is so good and so opposed to Saw Gerrera, and why the story of Rogue One is the last desperate attempt, because they realize that if they don't take out that space station, that the rebellion is done. And why Jyn, when she decides to make her stand, and she's gonna stand up in front of all the different leaders of the Rebel Alliance, why Andor and those other soldiers finally go against orders and go with him. I want to feel all of that, and I think that's this story. These 2 seasons are going to allow us to understand that.
Yep, and I think the last reason why we love Rogue One so much is it's not this movie didn't end with the typical happy ending as Star Wars fans are accustomed to. Every single main character died in the end. And while, yes, it was very sad, I think it made for a more impactful ending. I mean, these characters were willing to give their all, and they did. Nate, why do you think they decided to give this movie a not so happy ending?
I do think it was to show these characters giving everything for the Rebel cause. Some people who just joined the Rebel cause maybe a couple days before and all that stuff, but people who grew up in this era, in this time, and being oppressed by the Empire and all that, doing everything they can so that others don't have to go through that, giving their life so that others don't have to go through that. It shows that these characters are people that we can admire in this universe, in Star Wars, and these heroes, and why we understand why they are so important to this story and this universe and everything in Star Wars. They really are insanely important.
Yeah. Now, lastly, do you guys think that after Andor is finished, it'll change the way fans look at Rogue One and even maybe change some fans' minds towards it?
Well, it's interesting because Rogue One is one of those movies within Star Wars that was generally well received.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's well received because it's dealing with characters that have no connection to any other characters in the story.
Yeah.
With it. Do you guys remember that between Force Awakens and Rogue One that year, between that, one of the prevailing theories is that Jyn was going to survive and go off into hiding,
Rey's mom,
and was going to marry Luke, and Luke's was the father and Jyn was the mother of Rey.
Yeah.
That kind of,
it's funny how
I miss those days though. Those were happy days. We don't have those that much anymore.
That was fun. You're right.
Those were nice. I'd rather that.
The innocence.
The nostalgia.
I wish there was a way to know you were the good old days.
Yeah, no, I do think it's going to change the way some fans, but I think it's going to increase their love and their appreciation for it. I don't think it's going to, it necessarily needs to win over a ton of people to Rogue One.
Exactly. I think that it can change people's minds, and going into the not so fun part of the Star Wars fandom, I'm worried that due to the fact that they will be getting more exposure to Andor, people will not like how they treat Andor in the series because they feel like they know everything about him in the movie. It's happened. It will happen probably because this is just how Star Wars fandom goes sometimes. And it's something that we deal with. But I think that the great thing about Andor and the series is telling us what we don't know. We've had headcanon about or fan theories or anything for the past 6 years about who Andor is. And now we're learning that. Set way before Rogue One. Right. And now we're being able to see who this character, who we've all come to love in a small 2-hour period, is actually his true colors. And so I'm excited to see, but I think it will change.
And how many Star Wars podcasts get to say that they were in the building when they filmed the announcement that the Andor series was coming out?
We just didn't know about it.
Just one. They didn't tell us, but we were there when it was being filmed. And when they announced it, literally, I think we were in the parking lot when they announced it.
We were, Anyway. They just stopped filming the video, and then we went into the Star Wars show set.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty interesting, fun thing to be a part of. So. Yeah.
Well, Rogue One is truly a special Star Wars movie. It told an impactful story, and the characters have stuck in our heads even 6 years later, and definitely will for many more. And with Andor coming out September 21st, Rogue One's legacy lives on.
Very good. Good job, Samuel the Hutt.
Good job.
Proud of you.
Appreciate it.
It was a good segment.
Thank you.
And I got to throw in a Frozen 2 reference.
Yes,
all right.
that was something.
All right, let's just be honest here. There is a really good reason that the big studios are re-releasing movies like E.T. and Rogue One and Jaws and No Way Home. It's because there aren't any other good movies in the theaters right now. We'll explain that next on Movie Moments.
At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, we will have revenge.
How many releases? 1, 2? 1,
2.
2? 2. Wow. All right.
Anybody's going to...
No, kind of forgot that there were 2. The first one, The Invitation. Didn't know this was coming out this week. Don't even think I've seen a trailer for this, but it's, after the death of her mother and having no other known relatives, Evie takes a DNA test, which are so reliable, and discovers a long lost cousin she never knew she had.
It's like a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, it's invited by her newfound family to a lavish wedding in the English countryside. She's at first seduced by the attractive,
sexy
aristocrat host, but is soon thrusted into a nightmare survival as she uncovers twisted secrets in her family's history and the unsettling intentions by their sinful generosity. Behind, whatever it was.
Yeah, anyway.
The director is Jessica M. Thompson. The cast is Natalie Manuel and Thomas Doherty. Doherty, whatever it is. Sony Pictures, the studio, is rated PG-13 for terror, violent content, some strong language, sexual content, and impartial nudity.
Nope.
No.
We're
not interested.
Yeah, not for us.
All right.
No. This next one, 3,000 Years of Longing. This looked weird. You included this just because it's a weird name. Dr.
Alethea
Binney is an academic content with life and a creature of reason. While in Istanbul attending a conference, she happens to
Constantinople is it Istanbul? The Constantinople
Can I read?
Istanbul, the Constantinople. Sorry, yeah.
All right. Attending a conference, she happens to encounter a djinn.
They might be giants just got thrown into this show. I'm telling you. Subscribe. All right.
She encounters a djinn who offers her 3 wishes in exchange for his freedoms.
Oh, no, this is more like Aladdin.
It's Aladdin, yeah. This presents 2 problems. Isn't Idris Elba the djinn?
Yes.
Wow. This presents 2 problems. First, she doubts that he is real. Anyone would. And second, because she is a scholar of story and mythology, she knows all the cautionary tales of wishes gone wrong. Makes sense. She's seen Aladdin. The djinn pleads his case by telling her fantastical stories of his past. Eventually, she is beguiled and makes a wish that surprises them both.
It's an interesting concept,
wish,
honestly.
We didn't have a curse anymore. It's just Aladdin. The director is George Miller. The cast is Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton. Studios
great
United
actress.
Artists.
And it's rated R. The name Tilda Swinton.
The Witch. Behind the Witch in the Wardrobe.
Oh, yeah.
The Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
It's rated R for some sexual content, graphic nudity, and brief violence.
Nope.
It was an interesting concept.
But
yeah, no, I'm good.
Great actors too.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I don't know what this whole deal is here. For trailers this week, Zippo.
There's no the Zip is like zero.
Zippo.
I thought you were talking about like some movie about the lighter.
No, Zip.
There's nothing.
Zippo. There's not a trailer.
There's not. No.
All right.
There weren't any trailers worth watching.
No.
All right.
All right. For box office results, Dragon Ball Superhero made 20 million domestic.
That's crazy.
Good job.
It's crazy.
Congrats.
That explains Fortnite.
You didn't grab that?
Nope.
Okay.
Totally didn't connect that.
Beast made 11.5 million domestic. Probably not what they were hoping for for a first weekend. But who's surprised? And Bullet Train, third weekend? Mm-hmm. Yeah, third weekend, 8 million domestic. Not terrible.
Not terrible.
Not terrible. All right. Good job.
Good job, Nate.
My turn.
Oh, I thought we were skipping this one.
No, we're not skipping this segment. We may be skipping it in the future, but all right. I said I'd be light side. So this week was the premiere of She-Hulk. We mentioned on our last episode that we hadn't watched a single trailer for it, and we were going to go into the show with a clean slate.
And that we did.
But we didn't end that way. In fact, we ended up watching I Am Groot immediately afterward, and we were thrilled to have that show as a palate cleanser. We'll explain next.
Bulky religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
We ended up watching I Am Groot, then Daredevil, and so obviously you know how much we love Daredevil.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I finished season 3 and then immediately started rewatching the show. So
with it, all right. I want to get your reactions. We're going to start with I Am Groot.
Okay.
All right. Now let's see if you guys can take the hint that we're starting with I Am Groot.
Okay.
So give me your reaction to I Am Groot.
I loved it.
No, you missed it.
I Am Groot. You just wanted me to say
I Am Groot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Fun.
Okay. So
but
anyway,
no, I really, really liked it. I've always liked Groot, especially Baby Groot.
Yeah, you were always.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Groot. But I thought this was such a fun show. Shorts, whatever it was a ton of fun.
That 15 minutes was amazing.
Yes, I was having a smile on my face for 15 minutes straight, and that's great. And I think that the idea of the show was fun. It was great to see a rocket show up in the last episode. That last short was great and emotional, and it was fun to see. It was cute. But this whole show was genuinely good. And I think it's going to get overlooked by a lot of people just because it's a kid's show.
It's a kid's show and it's shorts and that kind of thing.
But no, watch this, please. It's really fun.
It's a great time.
And it's going to make Guardians 3 so much harder to watch.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I didn't go into it with like low expectations. I guess I kind of went into it with like, no expectations really. And I mean, it was so fun. I mean, there were clever jokes, and I mean, it was pretty impressive what they were able to convey and get across in 3 minutes per short,
with no dialogue.
The only dialogue is I Am Groot. I guess the last episode had a little bit last short had a little bit with Rocket. But I mean, well, and there was that one weird blob that impersonated Groot and started
He did
talking.
say some lines.
But
that was weird.
Largely it was just well executed, clever, fun jokes, and it got all sorts of your emotions were all over the place with it. I'm not saying I was crying or anything, but
surprise,
sadness for him. I mean, it was a lot
disappointments,
of fun.
concern, all of those things within just a couple of minutes. Yeah, I absolutely loved them. I know. I mean, you guys can pick up on. I thought they were fantastic. It was great. All right, so
I love that one with the like little colony he found.
Yeah, and he steps on him.
And then you're like shocked that they did that,
right?
And then they peek their heads up,
right.
So anyway, sorry if we spoiled it for you. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it. It's still going to be fun to watch. With it, all right, let's talk She-Hulk.
Yeah,
we'll start with you, Samuel the Hutt.
Of course, is he the great one to start with?
Sure, why not? Samuel the Hutt, go first. What's your reaction to the first episode of She-Hulk?
I mean, I guess disappointing is the best way to put it. I mean. I didn't watch the trailer, so I had no like headcanon to go into it with. I think we were all looking forward to it. I mean, and I was already interested in the character, knowing a little bit about She-Hulk and how she was a very fourth wall breaking kind of character, and
there were moments that I genuinely liked. Yeah,
and I thought that was an interesting concept. I was excited for it, and then knowing that Daredevil was going to be coming at one point, I got even more excited for it. So I think I went into this episode with a pretty excited mindset for it, and ultimately, it left me thinking I was okay, and that's about it. And I don't know if this is maybe a little too dark side. And so please don't take it as that. But a large part of why I'm, still want to watch this show is because I know Daredevil's coming.
Okay.
I think that's
so.
I mean, that's the same for me right now. I was going into this show excited for it, but I was more excited for Daredevil. I mean, She-Hulk's great, but I'm honestly, I'm here for Daredevil.
You have previous experience with Daredevil.
But I was excited to see the show. And now after the show, I'm like, okay, I mean, it's good. It's fun enough to watch, I guess. But now I'm really only here for Daredevil. If I miss next week's episode, like I sadly did with Miss Marvel, I won't be devastated. Unless
when we get to it, we get to it. Because you're going to be out of town Thursday. We're going to be at the birthday party all weekend. We probably won't watch it.
If Daredevil's in the episode, I'll get excited for it. If he's not, I'm not sure I'm insanely interested.
Yeah.
But overall, I think of this first episode, I wish they didn't do it in 30 minutes. I feel like that hurt them. I feel like the pacing killed this episode.
What do you mean?
Because you have so many weird points in this episode. You have, I mean, it felt like, in some ways you say this about a movie, like, I couldn't catch my breath, like Bullet Train. It was so intense.
Right.
That's a good thing. In this one, I couldn't catch my breath. It's all inflection. I didn't know what was going on. I mean, Titana or whatever her name.
Tatiana.
The Jennifer Walters character.
No. The character at the end. I think she has a name.
Bad guy.
Yeah, the bad guy.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember who she is. I don't even remember the entire.
They didn't even introduce her. She showed up 2 seconds later after a couple weird cuts of fight. She's gone. That was probably one of the worst edited fight scenes I've seen. And I'm not trying to be dark side. I'm just saying it was hard to follow. And then you have the whole thing on the island, and somehow a couple parts felt slow. I don't know how they did that, but it felt like there were parts that just they needed to work on. Make it 45, 50 minutes. I feel like.
Really? You wanted it to be longer.
I get the point he's making.
It could have been better if we had more character development for her and more experience with her. You need those 50-minute episodes. That's what made Moon Knight so good. That's what made Hawkeye so good.
I never would have gone down that path.
I agree. I don't think Nathan's saying he wanted more of what we got. I don't think that's what he's meaning. I think he's meaning if they had more time, they could have fleshed out the story better.
I would have liked the character more.
Yeah, I think you could have given a little more backstory, a little more nuance to the characters.
Okay, so tell me what more story you would have wanted to see them develop.
I would have loved to have seen more of Jennifer Walters' background before she got exposed. I want to see her getting into law school. I want to see her going through lawyer cases. I want to see her life before that, leading up to her getting hit with the chemicals, and how devastating that actually is for her to miss this.
Yeah,
she's so disappointed that she can't get back to her job. Well, why is she disappointed? Anybody would love to just spend on an island on a beach for multiple weeks and not have to work.
Hulk.
I mean, just imagine that. And so why is she so disappointed? She loves her job so much. Give me why she loves her job so much. I need those kind of things. And I mean, the only other live action MCU show that had this 30-minute format was WandaVision. We know Wanda. We know Vision. We've already been exposed to them. So you can tell stories like that in that type of format because it lends itself to it.
Yeah.
It does not lend itself to an origin story in this case. It was just not right in this format.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really expand on that much more than what you said. I think that about hits it on the nose. I also think you could have deepened the relationship between Bruce and Jennifer. Obviously they're family and you get that dynamic and stuff, but I wanted to see, I would have liked to have seen a little more brokenness from Bruce in being the Hulk. I mean, he was like, yeah, it sucks. I got this binder of like everything I've had to go through, and it's not been an easy life. That's fine. And that's true. But I wanted to see more brokenness from him. I mean, this has taken a toll on him. He has not been able to live a normal life because of it. And I wanted to see that real personal struggle that he's gone through with that.
Yeah. I wanted to see Jennifer having pure empathy for family and what Bruce has had to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being honest, the only emotion other than gags that we got in this episode was when Bruce was sitting at the bar talking about building it with Tony.
Yeah.
Best part of the episode was him talking about that and seeing the engraving of BB and TS.
Yeah.
Like, that was great. That was a great part of the episode. I'll have to admit. I wanted to see more emotion. I wanted to see Jennifer feeling bad for him, not fighting him. I feel like that overall was just, it felt off. It just happened and they were fighting. Why? Give me that experience and that lead up to the tension of why they would start fighting at that point and why it went on for so long. I can understand a little play fight for 30
cousins
minutes.
having a little fun.
No, not like actual two Hulks fighting because they have a small disagreement about life. I mean, they're family. I needed more emotion. I don't need high school childish humor. I need emotion in my character.
Do you think that they went down this path with the intention of even in the comic books, this is a comedic storyline, break the fourth wall like you talked about earlier, Sam?
Yeah.
All of those things. And they were trying to make this 30-minute sitcom kind of funny thing, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. I think that there have been a couple so far, in my opinion, 2 Marvel productions that have fell short because they relied on comedy too much. It's this and Love and Thunder. I think they both leaned on comedy a little too much and they suffered because of it. Ragnarok worked. It was new with humor, but it still had depth to the story. Yes. I think it was still interesting in that.
I mean, we saw Odin die
and things like that. Yeah. So I think that this suffered because it was trying to go for that sitcom feel. And there's nothing wrong with a sitcom feel. I think that can work, but it's kind of like there's got to be a time and a place for everything. Even sitcoms have episodes or moments in episodes where they kind of bring it down for a minute and really get to the depth. Honestly, The Office is a stupid show. I mean, not in a bad way. You get where I'm coming from.
Intentionally stupid.
But Nathan told me he cries every time he watches the finale.
A mess.
Yeah. So I'm not saying you're going to get to that level of emotion within one episode. I'm not saying
or
that.
Even one season.
No, but a little more time to flesh out the emotion would be would be very beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, for me, I think that it's the scene that sums it up is when Hulk Bruce is talking to She-Hulk. Smart Hulk. Okay. When he's talking to She-Hulk about Tony in the lab, and you see Tony's mask, and they talk about Tony building the lab for him and the relationship and all of that.
That wasn't Tony's mask, by the way. That was Ultron's mask, something that they worked on together.
Okay. But anyway, there was the connection.
Yeah, there's even more connection.
Yeah. Okay. Their relationship was special, was unique.
Yes.
And we don't know how long this is after the events of Endgame.
It's actually before Miss Marvel in the canon timeline. If you look on Disney Plus, it's set before Miss Marvel.
Interesting.
I feel like I wanted to see a grieving Bruce. I wanted to see a Bruce that was still struggling with the fact that his friend had given his life to save the entire universe, half the universe, and all of this, and all of those types of things. I think that that it just didn't work for me. I think that the attempts at humor were sophomoric and not in an office, not in an office way.
No. Sophomoric?
Yeah, just kind of juvenile.
Yeah. Was that where it was like sophomore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I learned something.
But I don't think they landed. All right.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mean, we could talk. I mean, we've talked about, story. We've talked about cinematography a little bit. I mean, not really cinematography. I mean, I think that it could have been better. Yeah. The CG could have been better and things like that. We've talked about execution. I guess my thought when I talk about She-Hulk, I don't want to necessarily, I do want to say this. My favorite character in She-Hulk was Jennifer Walters.
Yes.
Not She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Jennifer Walters. Those opening scenes with her, the lawyer scenes with her, I thought they were
fun.
Great.
Yeah.
I loved her character.
Yeah.
I wanted more of that. I did not like the way that they portrayed She-Hulk and the character itself. I didn't like the way she looked. I didn't like the way that she interacted with
They can
Hulk.
explain why her hair completely changes.
It's just the way it is.
Okay.
You know, I just didn't like any of that. I just didn't, I didn't land for me. I didn't like She-Hulk. I loved Jennifer Walters. I thought she was amazing. And the moments where, on the island where Jennifer is sharing.
Yeah.
As Jennifer are, you know, that her perspective is something that is good. And I have no problem with that. I just didn't like She-Hulk with it. I want to know kind of to sum up She-Hulk for you guys. I'll start with you, Sam, then I'll go with you, BB Nate. How did this show make you feel? You know, the end credits start to roll.
We
The episode, we forget there's a post-credit scene. The show is over and we're getting ready to move about to go to I Am Groot because that was the plan all along.
We forgot that there was the end credit that we needed to watch.
Right. How did this show make you feel?
Ultimately, it just made me feel like disappointed. Like it was another swing and a miss kind of for Marvel. You know, I think everybody's kind of thought that there have been some falling off in Marvel and later productions.
Kind of post-Endgame.
I'm not saying everything's been bad. There were plenty of things in this phase that I've absolutely loved. I'm not saying that Marvel's like going down in quality in total, but there have been some things that have been a bit of a miss, which is rare for Marvel because for the most part, I've liked everything.
I'd expect it with DC.
Excuse me. And I was really going into this show wanting to like it, wanting to be excited for it and have another great Marvel show that I can enjoy. I mean, I've enjoyed all the shows so far. I think they've all been great. So I was excited for another one to add to the roster. But by the end of this episode, it didn't hit. And not that it was like it felt like I was the wrong demographic for it. Similar to how I felt at the beginning of Ms. Marvel, which completely changed by the end. It didn't hit at all.
Okay.
None of it.
No. Be Nate.
I guess frustrated because I know Marvel can do so much better. Some of the best movies, in my opinion, that we've gotten in the past decade have come from Marvel. We have Endgame. We have Iron Man, which completely changed cinema.
Yeah.
We have No Way Home. We have Doctor Strange, which is one of my favorite movies. There are so many amazing things that have come out of the MCU, and this doesn't feel like it. And I mean, I saw a review saying that this felt like the CW was led into the MCU. Oof. I'm not saying it's that bad. I'm just saying if it keeps this direction, it can get that bad.
Wow.
And we love The Flash, but because it's so bad, we can make fun of it. And we don't expect any more from it. I expected so much more from this show because I know what it can be.
So you're not mad. You're just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed. But
I'll tell you how I felt. You know, the credits start rolling and I just didn't care.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't care.
I literally was like going to move on with my life. There was nothing like crazy, like Moon Knight. Like, oh my gosh, what did that mean?
Yeah, we normally when we finish something that we really like, we immediately start talking about it. I mean, instantly start theorizing, talking about this and that and that. And this we were like, okay, all right.
Whatever. Let's move on to I Am Groot. Okay. And literally, let's move on to I Am Groot. I know we talked about it in, you know, kind of our reactions with that, but you know, let's just kind of go down that last question because we talked about the story and the cinematography as well on that one already.
Yeah. Animation is beautiful.
Start with you, BB Nate.
Yes.
Watching I Am Groot, those 5 3-minute shorts, 15 minutes of content, half the length of She-Hulk, one episode, right? How did that show make you feel?
I guess the one word to describe it was just joy. I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
I was smiling. It was cute. It felt like an MCU-esque kind of thing. The moments that we got of Baby Groot in Guardians 2, this was that. This is what you can expect from that. And I'd love to see more of these leading up to maybe Teen Groot. That would be fun to see him growing up. But I just felt like this was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. I was laughing, and it's a testament to visual storytelling and show not tell. And I mean, it was great. There was barely any dialogue in any of it, and it told a great story. And I mean, we're seeing that in some more shows now, like Primal, like Gennady Tartakovsky's new Primal show. There's not a lick of dialogue in that unless it's in another language. And it's already crawled its way onto the top 250 TV shows of all time.
Wow.
It's great. And so it's showing that you can tell amazing stories in 15 minutes with no dialogue, with a cute character who acts like a baby, and have fun with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sam, how did that show me? How did I Am Groot make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if maybe our opinions of it or my opinions of it were influenced in any way by having just previously watched She-Hulk. So, disclaimer, I guess, with that. But I think at any point, I would have thought the things that Nathan was thinking and the things that I thought about this show. It was just the best word to sum it up is fun. I mean, there was never any like moments where like, this is dragging, or wow, I really didn't like, that choice or anything. It was fun. The jokes were not even like punchline jokes. They were just like you said, visual storytelling, I mean, the whole episode where, spoilers if you haven't watched it, I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but you should watch it. It's 15 minutes.
It's great.
But the one where he basically turns himself into a chia pet. And sit there and does like his own like fashion show.
That was great.
It was tons of fun. And then at the end, when that bird was making fun of him, and he gets pissed off and he like rips the feathers off the bird and like makes a scarf.
Like, they were
out of
shocked.
It. Yeah,
I was like, oh my God.
I mean, it was funny, and thank God he didn't like kill a bird or something. But
no, I honestly thought that's what happened.
I thought so too. So I'm glad they like showed us that he just psychologically damaged it.
It'll grow back.
But I mean, it was shocking. Like, we didn't expect that. I mean, there was like all these ups and downs, but overall, like at the end of each of those shorts, I was like, that was cute and that was fun. I want to see what they do in the next one, And then the last short had a nice little emotional wrap up.
It was
to
a very
cute.
emotional episode on that. I would tell you that I Am Groot brought me joy. It brought me happiness. Exactly. I brought lots of emotion. I laughed more in the first 3 minutes of the first short than I think I did the entire episode of She-Hulk, and I needed to laugh.
Yeah,
because I didn't feel that laugh. That much in She-Hulk, and going into it expecting to laugh a lot with it. I just didn't, I think you said it, Sam, it didn't land for you. She-Hulk didn't land, and I Am Groot landed in everything for me. And then we remembered there was an end credit scene.
We did. Well, this was right before we watched I Am Groot.
Yeah. Right. So after She-Hulk finishes, we remembered that we hadn't watched the end credit scene.
So you go back into.
So we go back in and we find it and we get to the end of it. And, I was really disappointed in that. And that's what we're going to go with on this week's Dad Moment.
I am your father.
All right. So as a dad, I've always loved the MCU portrayal of Steve Rogers. He's truly a throwback to a simpler time when there was a lot less gray area. He treats women with the utmost respect. He always does the right thing, even when the world disagrees with him. And he's even charmingly innocent, like when Howard Stark suggests that he and Peggy Carter stop off in Paris for a fondue, and Steve asks Peggy, "Do you fondue?" But all of that was sacrificed in the end credit scene of the first episode of She-Hulk for nothing more than a cheap joke. I know that the values and morals that I teach my sons are antiquated, that mainstream society doesn't hold to them. And I'm told that I shouldn't try to force my positions on anyone else, but this should also be a two-way street. This isn't the same thing as our introduction to Tony Stark in the original Iron Man, which, by the way, I hesitated watching with Sam and Nate until after it left the theater because of the scene that I'm referencing here. The scene when Tony has that one night stand with a reporter. The truth is, that is Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And that scene explained to all of us who Tony Stark is. But now the contrast between the selfish billionaire playboy looking for a quick hookup with anyone who will go to bed with him and the conservative war hero from days gone by that we had in Steve Rogers has been obliterated by making a joke of Steve Rogers' moral choices during World War II, it makes his character less interesting and his love for Peggy much less important.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, the MCU has decided that Steve Rogers couldn't be with the one he loved, so he loved the one he was with, all for a few laughs. And the MCU is worse off today because of it.
Agreed.
So, here's the thing. We're going to watch the rest of She-Hulk, and we'll go into this week's episode really hoping we enjoy it. But not everything is made for everybody, and we get that. We're just holding out hope that episode 2 doesn't make us feel the way that episode 1 did.
Yep.
All right. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, tickets go on sale today. For the more fun stuff version, I quote, of Spider-Man No Way Home, releasing August 31st. There's like, what, extra 20 minutes? 15 minutes of content in there?
Very cool.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Ezra Miller issues an apology and says he is seeking help.
Good for him.
Good.
I hope he does. And I hope we get to see The Flash because its screener points for its test audience screenings came out recently. And it has the highest rating out of any DCEU movie.
And I hope Ezra Miller is able to go to the premiere holding his head high.
Yes.
And
he's probably never going to get to do press for it.
No.
But there's some others in that can do it.
Yeah. Oh, so like Michael Keaton.
Absolutely. Natasha Liu Bordizzo is living her Star Wars dream as Sabine Wren. She talks about binge watching all of Star Wars Rebels to understand her character. And
makes sense.
Seems like it's going to be very cool.
Oh, yes.
This was a different episode. We said it would be at the beginning.
It was weird, man. We had some weird moments.
But thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Tatooine Sons of Pop Culture Podcast.
If you had a good time listening, somehow, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Yeah, and of course, the show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world. So if you are a glutton for punishment and you want more of this, be sure to like us on Facebook and join our Facebook discussion group and follow us on Twitter to get in on all of the action. And you can get up to date with everything we've got going on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss our next episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a review on Apple Podcast. If you didn't, please forget that I said that, or whatever podcast app that you prefer on that. Anything else you guys would like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.
Yep, yep.